Hey everyone, welcome to the Truth Only Show here on Kcaa Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM. You can also catch us on the web. Go to truthonlyshow.com. On truthonlyshow.com, you will see our previous videos, and you will also find ways to get in contact with us through our Facebook page and our email, truthonlyshow@gmail.com. You can send us questions or thoughts or reactions. But most importantly, share that website with somebody and show them the videos, a video that you might have liked, a message that you might have liked, and hopefully they will get some use out of that. So that's truthonlyshow.com. Now here's the host of the show, David Rodriguez.
Good morning, everyone. Great to have you here with us again on another episode of our show, where we bring you nothing but the truth. Not too many opinions, a whole lot of truth, though. But as usual, before we get started, I want to welcome all of you. Great to have you here with us. And I want to give thanks to the people, again, that make this show possible. I want to start out with our engineer, Mr. Joe Pagano. Does a fantastic job. Fantastic. And our webmaster, Mr. Joel Strouser. Really appreciate what you do, Joel. You're doing a great job, and all I got to do is just thank you so much. And again, of course, my co-host and producer, Michael, that you just heard just a minute ago. And special thanks to all of you. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we talk about here on the show for all of you that are new listeners. What we do is here, what we're doing here on the show is we talk about human nature. In other words, what we're trying to do here is to tell you and teach you about how great you truly are. And, I know that a lot of you, you might find that as a surprise, but it's true. I know so many of us have been beaten up by sermons and everything telling us that we're not all that great and that we're weak, and I think you know what I'm talking about, but that's not true. On this show here, we're here to tell you about how great you are and all the great potential that you do have within yourself. And that is your true nature. That's who you truly are. But I mean, first you got to begin to understand it. And we're going to today I'm going to try to give you a way to understand your nature and just the nature of the universe that you live in. What I'm going to talk about today is the power of the invisible. Okay? What I'm going to talk about is how the physical world is constantly changing form. Remember, everything in the physical world is constantly changing form. But there is a power source that's making it all happen. And it's been going on forever, and it continues to go on, and it's going to continue to go on. And it is something very important that you must understand, that a power that you do have within you. But I'm going to try to make it as clear and simple as I can so you can understand it. Now just stick with me, follow with me, okay? Before anything physical existed, there was the invisible. I mean, I know it's very difficult I can't give you 100% evidence to what I'm talking about, but I think you can understand it. I think you can figure it out yourself. Before there was anything, before there was man, before there were animals, before there were trees, water, before there was any of that, there was an invisible power source, an invisible energy, something that brought it all into existence. That's what we're talking about here. Well, here, I'm going to start out. I'm going to give you an example. First of all, what I'm talking about is man, for example. Before there was man, before man existed, man or woman existed, before they were here, and then there was just this power, this energy source that brought them into existence. It was something that we couldn't see, but it was there. It was real, and it brought the first humans into existence, brought the first animals into existence, brought the planets into existence, the water, everything, brought it all into existence. Okay? But it was an invisible power, an invisible source that created everything. Okay, now I'm gonna explain to you what I said, what we were gonna talk about, how the physical world is constantly changing all the time. It's always changing. It never stops. It's an ongoing process. Even your own physical body is constantly changing. Everything is constantly changing. The trees are constantly changing. They're constantly growing. The air continues to constantly move. Everything is always changing. The physical world is always changing size, shape, or whatever you want to do it. Whatever, I think you can understand that. The whole physical world. I mean, trees are on, they're a table now in your living room now. And one day it won't be a table anymore. That wood's going to be something else, somewhere else. I don't know where, but it's going to be somewhere else. The physical world is always changing. We pull things out of the ground and we produce other products from it. We produce other things. We pull metal out of the ground and make all kinds of things with it. So everything's always changing, the physical world. It's so important that you understand that. Now, let me give you one example of what I'm talking about. From the invisible power, that the physical is always changing. There's an invisible power. There's a time when everything goes back to the invisible and then takes form again. I'll use the water cycle, for example. Okay? Think about this. Follow along with me. It's very important. This is very important. You're going to see how important it is. Think about the water cycle. You look over the ocean, you cannot see the evaporation going on. You can't see that water changing form. It's a physical thing that you can see, and then all of a sudden it changes form to something that you cannot see. The evaporation, you cannot see it. So it goes from a physical that you can see to an invisible thing now. And then it rises up, and whatever the process is, it turns to clouds. The water evaporation, it changes to a cloud. So it goes from a physical thing you can see to an invisible thing, and then it goes again to another physical thing. It's in a different form now. It's a different physical form. First, it's in a form that you can touch. You can touch the water. You can feel it. Then it goes to the invisible, and when it changes form, it goes to a something that you can see now, a cloud, but you can't touch it. You can't feel it. It's there, but you can't feel it. Now that cloud moves across the land, for example, and then it changes form again and drops down as rain. It changes one more time from something physical that you can see. Again, it goes back to a physical thing that you can feel, the water. And it comes down in different forms. So the physical changes to many different forms. It can change to snow, and it comes down as snow. It can come down as hail. And it can actually hit you. I mean, we've known of hail comes down the size of a baseball. It comes down and dents the cars and everything else. So it can come down in many different forms. And what does it do? It changes again in form and rushes back down to the ocean again. Now we got it in the ocean, then it rises up again. So it's continually changing form from the invisible to the physical that we can see, and then to the physical again that we can touch. So that's an ongoing natural process. It's been going on for millions of years as far as we know. So now I just, that is so important that you understand going from the invisible to the visible again. I'm going to give you another example. Um, Another physical thing that's constantly another physical, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat myself. Everything physical is constantly changing form. I'm going to give you another example. The animals, let's take the dinosaurs, for example. There was a time when dinosaurs didn't exist, but this invisible energy, this invisible source, whatever you want to call it anything you want, God, call it doesn't matter. But it's this is just a fact. It was an invisible energy source that produced the animals, produced the dinosaurs. Now what's happened with the dinosaurs? Now, dinosaurs were around for, I don't know, millions of years. And finally, when they died out through whatever happened to them, I mean, the Ice Age or whatever happened, I'm not going to go into any of that. But I just want you to understand what I'm talking about. The dinosaurs died out, and the vegetation, a lot of the vegetation, when they died out, what they did over millions of years, they formed big pools in the ground. So the physical bodies of the dinosaurs also changed forms, and the plants. And through millions of years, it formed giant pools of oil, petroleum, oil, whatever is in the ground. They changed form to another form, some type of a thick liquid. Okay, so the physical changed form again into oil. And then man comes along, pulls that oil out of the ground, cleans it up, turns it into gasoline, changes the form again, and then we take that gasoline and we put it in our cars, we burn it up, and it turns into another invisible thing, something again that we cannot see. You cannot really see when you first burn up that gas. Well, maybe when you eventually see it as smog, but that's just another form. But as we're burning it up, here again, the physical dinosaurs and vegetation and all that change from one form into the oil. We pull it out of the ground, we put it in our gas tanks, burn it up, and it turns into an invisible thing again. So, and then it goes up into the air, and who knows what happens to it after that. But I just want you to understand that the physical world is constantly changing form, and it goes from physical things that we can see to the invisible again. And then probably goes from the invisible again to the physical again, something that we can see and touch all over again. So that's just a natural process. It's just nature. There is nothing strange, nothing weird, nothing. We don't give you any of that on this show. Nothing strange, nothing. We're just giving you facts about nature. Now, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with you? Well, it has a lot to do, has everything to do with you. Because, in your world, you have this invisible power. Whether you realize it or not, just because you don't realize it, just because you've never thought about it, doesn't change the fact that it is true. You have this invisible power. And what is that? It is thought. You have the power of thought. Now, and the reason I say that, because your thought world, which is an invisible world, will bring physical things into your world. So it is the same thing. It's what's really happening, like the invisible world changes form to a physical world. Well, your thoughts also do that. Your thoughts become physical things. In other words, what I'm talking about is the power of attraction, or we can say the law of attraction. We're really saying the same thing. You take your thoughts, which are invisible, and you turn them into different forms, because you attract what you think about. You attract physical things into your world that basically match what you think about. You think limited thinking. If that's what you've been doing all these years, having limited thoughts, well, you will bring things, attract things into your life, physical things into your world that are very limited. If you can understand what I'm saying, even money, your finances, your invisible thoughts will attract your finances to you. It doesn't take any real genius to figure this out. All you got to do is think a little bit about what types of things you think about. If you're constantly thinking that you're very limited with your finances, if you're always thinking that you have to drive around that old car, if you're always thinking that you can't buy that nice house, if those are the kind of thoughts because you think you can't afford it, that is what you're attracting into your life. That's what I say. You have this power. You are a lot more incredible. You are much greater than you believe about yourself. A lot greater than what you can believe. And all the power, this invisible power, this power source, this energy that I started this whole talk about, and telling you that the physical world is always changing, you have the power to control it in your own personal life. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before. Change your thinking, change your life. I mean, I'm not telling you anything that is new. I'm not telling you, revealing anything. I'm just bringing you more evidence just to prove that what you've heard before is true. Change your thinking, change your life. Or maybe you've heard this before. Now maybe it'll have a little more meaning. Thoughts are things. You know, whoever came up with that phrase, I don't know who did, and I don't know how long ago. It's probably thousands of years ago, I guess. But they were just telling you the truth. In other words, it's been around for, seems like forever, but you know what? It takes a while for us personally to take it seriously. I know that for myself. When I started taking it seriously, started giving it more thought, started thinking more and more about what I think about, I began to realize that my life matched a whole lot of what I was thinking about. And the more I thought about it, the more it made me realize how important it is to control what I think about. So when I began to experiment like a scientist, when I began to experiment with my thinking, I began to notice that things began to change. I mean, I didn't do it once in a while. Believe me, it took some work. It took some constant, on a daily basis, constantly taking notice of what I'm thinking about, being aware of what I'm thinking about, being careful of what I think about. And more and more I began to stop the things that I used to think about, which were my limitations, my problems with relationships, and with a lot of the other the things that I didn't like in my life, the things that I didn't like about my life. When I stopped thinking about them and started to think more about the things I want to experience in my life, I began to notice that's what begins to happen. So what I've been trying to tell you, that the physical world is constantly changing form, and there's an invisible power that is behind it, an invisible energy that is behind it. I know that it's all true, and it exists all through the nature, all through the physical world. So then when I began to notice that it's true with my own world, that my own thoughts are power and energy, they're an energy source, I began to direct it in where I want my life to go, and I began to see that my life started going in that direction. because you are part of nature. You are also nature. That is why we started the show and started to talk about human nature, because your nature truly is that you are great. You are powerful. Maybe you just never knew it. Maybe you've been listening to the wrong people. Maybe you've been listening to the people that have been telling you that you're not very much, that you're a low crawling worm on the ground. Maybe you're a sinner. You're all these other things. Maybe that's all you've been taught. Maybe that's what you've been listening to. Well, you're listening to a show now that is finally telling you the truth about yourself. You are great. You have greatness within you. And you can take control of that greatness anytime that you want. The past matters for nothing. It doesn't matter what your past was like. Because once you start changing the way you think, your life will begin to change. And I'm telling you 100% sure. There is no doubt about it. No doubt whatsoever. That's human nature. That's your nature. And here, I'm going to give you a shocker. If you don't believe me, pull out a Bible. And I'm not talking religion, okay? I'm not talking anything about religion. I just want you to pull out that book that so many people claim to believe, but I don't really see the people are believing it. I'm telling you, pull that book out and go to Psalms 82:6 and look, see what it says about you. It says, "Ye are gods and sons of the Most High." What is it saying? Ye are gods. I'm telling you that you have the power to create what kind of experience, what kind of life you want to experience. You have that power. So think about what you read when you read that thing, okay? It's there. It's clear as day. Regardless of you've been told the opposite, it's there. And I just gave you all the evidence in the physical world to prove to you that it is true about who you are. Now, we're going to take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're going to have a discussion on this topic. And remember that you're listening to the Truth Only Show. We're at trutholnyshow.com. You can hear all of our shows, or you can just tune right in on Kcaa 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, or 106.5 FM. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complication. Just move on up. For peace you'll find into the steeple of beautiful people where there's only one kind. So hush now, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Move on up and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme. So keep on pushing. take nothing less than the supreme best. Do not obey, no mispeople say, but you can pass the test. Just move on up to a greater day. With just a little faith, if you put your mind to it, you can surely do it. Just move on up. Move on up. But move on up. Watch out, but just move on up. But move on up. Move on up.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. We're here on KCAA Radio. You're listening to the Truth Only Show. That's KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM. And we are talking about, what's the title of your
The
talk?
invisible, the power of the invisible.
The Power of the Invisible.
Right.
When you say the invisible, what is the invisible?
What is the invisible?
Yeah.
Well, for one of the examples I gave, that before anything existed, there was something that made it come into existence, and it was something invisible. And another thing is, an invisible is your thoughts are invisible, but yet we all know, we all know, it doesn't take, like I said, it doesn't take any big genius to figure out that what your thoughts are invisible, and your thoughts are what bring your experiences and draw physical things into your life. It's thought. Thought is invisible.
So the thought,
And it is a power. It is actually the only power you really have, is your thoughts are the only power you truly have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an invisible power.
so thoughts are what you would say is the invisible.
Yeah,
In that,
that's
okay.
yeah, that's one of the invisible powers, yeah, that exists. So now think about it. If everything that we bring into existence in our life is through thought, well, you got to think maybe if that's the only thing that there is that brings things into our world is thought, well, then what brought the world into existence? Couldn't it be just a thought, but maybe a thought from something greater power? I mean, you got to take that into consideration. Well, you got to at least think about it.
Yeah.
So
Here's a quote about kind of what you were talking about, because you started off by giving examples of things that are in a state of change, or things that have gone through different forms.
And everything is, all physical world it's constantly changing, all of it. Yeah.
And then in science, I was looking a few things up while you were talking, and there's the change of state, that what you were talking about, the liquid from freezing to liquid to gas. That's called a change of state.
Right.
And then there's a lot of different ones. Decomposition, stuff breaks down,
Right.
and by different living creatures break down this stuff into different nutrients, and then that nutrients will go into the ground or go into the soil and
fertilize the trees
the
and
next
the flowers
plants that are going to come on, and then
right.
that will happen again when those plants die, and so that So everything is connected in that way.
Everything is connected, and everything is always changing form. All the physical
Plants get eaten, then those turn into nutrients and calories and stuff, and that fuels the animals, and then we eat the animals, and that comes back to us.
And then we burn it up, and that energy, and it goes out through our bodies and gets sent out, and we're always constantly taking in more, and it's, and our hair is constantly growing, doesn't stop growing, and our skin is
and then there's
changing,
living bacteria on us, living off of our off of our body,
living and dying on us.
Yeah,
I'm sure
and we
they
don't
don't live very long. I'm sure they're on there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's constantly new ones coming out, growing all the time,
and then they fall off, and they're feeding something else. Everything. is
and
changing
for
form.
us, they're invisible too. We can't see them, but they're there.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of invisible things, powers.
Well,
that
there's
we-
probably more invisible things if you count them by numbers. There's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of bacteria that you can't even see.
Right.
The good and the bad.
Right. And now all that here's the thing. Everything that you're talking about right now, all these things that are changing their form, there's an invisible source, an invisible power that's making all that happen. Okay. There's some kind of a power, some kind of an energy that's making all that happen all the time. That's what I'm talking about, the invisible power. That's the invisible power that's making all those things that you talked about happen. Okay? It's the invisible power that makes your heart beat. Makes, it's there. I mean, it exists. You can't deny it. So...
I had a quote here, so that was the more, that was the natural, the physical world example of what you were talking about. Then,
right.
But your point is not to make a point about the physical world, because everyone agrees about that. That's established. So you're talking about the more of the creative process of when you think a thought and it turns into something. So here's a quote from a book. I'm not sure who the author is. Her name is Vera Nazarian, and the book is called The Perpetual Calendar of Inspiration. But this is her quote about creating.
Yeah.
She says, "One of the strangest things is the act of creation. You are faced with a blank slate, a page, a canvas, a block of stone or wood, a silent musical instrument. You then look inside yourself, you pull and tug and squeeze and fish around for slippery, raw, shapeless things that swim like a fish made of cloud vapor and fill you with living clamor. You latch onto something, and you bring it forth out of your head like Zeus giving birth to Athena, and it comes out. It takes shape and tangible form. It drips on the canvas and slides through your pen. It springs forth and resonates into the musical strings and slips along the edge of the sculptor's tool onto the surface of the wood or marble. You have given it cohesion. You have brought forth something ordered and beautiful out of nothing. You have glimpsed the divine."
Exactly. What? Just to make it a more simple explanation, she mentioned that too. But what I'm saying is, what we're really doing with our minds, we give things form.
Cohesion.
Right.
Yeah.
We give them form in our mind. We form whatever it is, and now we're not talking about. Forget about whether you're rich or poor or any of that. But you give form to the things in your world. You give them form in your mind, and then it goes out, and that form gets filled up in the physical world. But you give it the form in your mind. It's all invisible. It's an invisible power source. But you look out into your physical world, what you have is what you have drawn to yourself, what you have given form to, what you have given life to. And the more you think those same types of things, you're giving those kinds of things more life. You continue to give them more life. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is change what you think about, and you will begin to give that life. Nicer things. I'm talking about the physical things, nicer cars, a nicer home, a nicer thing. You start thinking about them, and what happens is the mind goes to work when you're conscious or when you're unconscious, when you're asleep, let's say. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but even when you're asleep, the mind goes to work and begins to work on those things that you think about, and will go to work and begin to produce them for you.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, though, is so in order for these thoughts to become reality, you need to think about them and form them in your mind first, right?
Yes, that
Okay.
has to happen first.
But what if you don't? So maybe you have a goal in mind, but
Mhm.
you don't have the steps of achieving that goal in mind. You don't know what the steps are.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You don't know. Yeah, so maybe I want a new car.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. That's one thing. And but you can't imagine all of the steps on that path to the new car, or
Right.
how do you do it?
You can't. You can't know what all the steps are going to be. You're not going to know what all the steps are going to be, because you don't. You cannot predict the future. None of us can predict the future. Okay, so but what happens is, when you can see your vision, when you can see it, you form it in your mind clearly what you desire to have, or what you desire to become. You're not going to you're not going to know what all the steps are, because you don't know what's going to happen to you next week or the week after or the week after that. So there's no way you can know any of that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is, when you begin to imagine what you want, what you desire, and you and you keep it in your mind on a daily basis, this is the hidden power that we all have. There is a hidden power that it's hidden because you don't know that it's happening behind the scenes. Your mind is beginning to produce the ideas to accomplish that goal or dream, but it's happening back in the back of your mind. Let's say it's happening in the back of your mind. You're not conscious of what's happening, but those ideas to get there will come out at you slowly, one at a time, to take you in the direction to get there. It'll come through ideas of intuition. Through intuition, you get this little idea, you follow it, but you must follow them. In other words, you must take action.
Try them out.
You must take action. When you get an idea, you got to take action.
They're not all necessarily going to be
And they're
good
not-
ones, are
No, they might not always. You might not take the right one all the time. It doesn't matter. As long as you keep that goal, that vision in your mind, you will, and you keep taking action, slight actions, going in the direction of your goal, you will eventually get there, because the mind will never fail you as long as it knows where it's going. As long as you know where you want to go, the mind will take you there through ideas, through intuitions, through whatever. As long as you keep going forward, the mind's going to lead you and take you all the way to complete your vision, your purpose. Mm-hmm. Now, here on this show, we do not talk religion. I'm not talking religion. But what did the great teacher say in that book, the Bible, Jesus, when he said, when you pray, okay, let's forget about this going to church and kneeling down. Forget that. He said, when you pray, in other words, he's saying was, when you go within yourself, when you pray, believing, you see the thing that you desire. As long as you can see the thing that you desire as an already accomplished fact, you will experience it. Those aren't his exact words, but that's what he said. Believing in the thing that you desire as if you already have it. In other words, see the vision already like it's already yours. Then you will have it. He's saying the same thing as to what I'm saying here. There's no difference. He's telling you the same thing. See your vision and continue to see it as it is already happened. and then you will experience it. Saying the same thing. But I know all those years I was going, and nobody ever taught me what that meant, but I know now because I studied a little bit about the science of your thinking. So we're going to take a little short break now. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're going to have a little more discussion on this topic. And remember, you're listening to Truth Only Show at trutholnyshow.com at 1050 KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
I've met many people over the years, and in my opinion, I have found that people are the same everywhere. They have the same fears, shed similar tears, die in so many years. The oppressed seem to have suffered the most in every continent, coast to coast. Now our lives are in the hands of the pusher man. We break it all down in hopes that you might understand how to protect yourself. Don't make no profit for the man. I'm so glad I've got my own. So glad that I can see my life's a natural high. The man can't put no thing on me. I'm so glad I've got my own. So glad that I can see my life's a natural high. The man can't put no thing on me. Here's something kind of funny. The man take your money. He's shrewd as he can be, in such a way you'll never see. It's a terrible thing inside when your natural high has died. The weaker turn to dope and put all aside their hope. And I'm so glad I've got my own. So glad that I can see my life's a natural high. The man can't put no thing on me. I'm so glad I've got my own. So glad that I can see my life's a natural high. The man can't put no thing on me.
All right, welcome back to the Truth Only Show. I just realized I didn't say the name of the artist or the songs today on the last one. The first song was, both songs are by Curtis Mayfield, and the first one is called, this one is No Thing on Me. The first one was called, can't think of what it's called. I'll think of it.
You'll get it.
Anyways, we're talking about the invisible world. Or the invisible, what was it? The power of the invisible.
The power of the invisible, yeah.
So we were talking about you don't always know about the steps on the way, but you're once you start thinking about it enough, you'll get the ideas will come to you.
They will come.
And you got to try them.
Yeah, we live in a universe of ideas. That's what we do. We live in a universe, and they're right there ready for anybody to open up to them, and they'll start coming. Ideas, new ones.
That's what I was going to say. I heard a talk recently when somebody was talking about that in life there's a lot of funnels. And what does that mean? That means like, for example, when people think of advertising their business, they're thinking, oh, I need to advertise to 1,000 people, and I might get 100 responses, and then 10 of those people might actually give me their their debit card number, and then 5 of them will probably actually buy.
Right.
So that's a funnel. It gets smaller and smaller until they actually get their goal. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing with the thoughts, with the ideas. The way I feel about it, like especially when you don't know what the steps are to accomplish something, you get a lot of ideas, and the only way to find out which one of those 20 ideas that you get will work is you have to start trying them out.
You got
Try them out, and a lot of them aren't going to work, but then you're going to find the next one that works. Then try a bunch out, find the next one that works, and keep on trying them.
That's why faith without works is dead.
Mm-hmm. You need to whittle your way down and funnel your way down.
Right. You got to take a little action. Right.
The other thing you wanted to talk about, you wanted to give an example of from the boxer Mikey Garcia. What did you want to say about him?
What we talk about here is that, what we said that if I said before we went on the break, when you can see your goal in your dream, you imagine it like if it's already happened, because it's already happened in your mind. So you're already living and experiencing it. Then one day you will experience it. I mean, I said it. I just told you, I explained it the best that I could about this. That's the invisible hidden power that you do have. And then I gave you the example of what Jesus said. When you pray as if you already have what you desire and believe in it, then you will have it, okay? I'm going to give you another example, what Michael just said. I heard an interview with Mikey Garcia. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a great fighter, 3-time world champion. He's from this area. He's from Moreno Valley. And I heard a little bit about what he said. They asked him about how he gets his success. And what he said was exactly the same thing that we're talking about here. He said that he imagines, I'm not sure which word he used, imagines or visualizes his fight. He sees it in his mind clearly, visualize it happening already. And then he says once he has it clear in his mind, they can't beat him. Well, he's still undefeated, and he's accomplished quite a bit. But that's what he said. That was the secret that I heard from him. He visualizes the fight. He sees it happening. This is my interpretation of it. He's watching in his mind the fighter in front of him throwing punches at him. He's seeing all these punches coming at him, and he's learning in his mind how to react, how to move, and how to react back to the punches coming at him, how to move, how to do everything. And once he has it clear in his mind, he said himself, they can't beat him. So he's saying his way exactly what we're talking about here, but he's living proof of it. He's living proof of it. So I think it's very important. Einstein said, imagination is greater than knowledge. I've said that many times on the show, and I'm going to continue on until you get it. Imagination is greater than knowledge. Why? Because, like I said, I've repeated before. I'm going to repeat one more time so you get this very clear. How many people already know, people that are way overweight, how many of you already know what you got to do to lose weight? You know what you have to do. You know you got to change what you eat. You know you got to get up and move around a little bit. You know that already. You have the knowledge. But what's missing? Knowledge isn't just enough. You need more than just knowledge, because who doesn't know what you got to eat? Who doesn't know what you got to do? Who doesn't know what you got to do to stop your drug problem? Everybody knows what you got to do, but there's something missing. That's what we teach here. That's what we're trying to teach here.
What I wanted to ask you about and I think this would be a good talk for maybe next week do a whole episode about it. But I think the thing about the dieting and the thing about getting the ideas to make your next step, it's all about doing it now. You need to do it now. Like I've been working on this project of making some videos for the internet,
right? And
for years and years I've been wanting to do something like this, for years and years people want to lose weight, right. But the thing that they're always missing is just doing it right now.
Yeah. No.
So I think maybe that would be a great talk, just to talk about doing it now, and because I've been working on these videos and I've been thinking about it all day long, which is another thing that we talk about here. I think about it all the time, and then I think but then so now every time I have a free chance, I've been catching myself when I'm thinking about doing something. It's like, well, I'm just gonna go and do it right now. I can do it right now, and I go and do it right now. And I think that made a big help in getting things going.
Yeah, well, yes, you got to start right now. You got to stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know the sad thing about this is many times I've heard many people say that you have to hit the worst time in your life. In other words, you got to hit rock bottom before you'll do anything about it. But I think, why does it have to be that way? Why do you have to hit rock bottom to make a change? Why don't you just right now, this moment, why don't you just say, you know what, that's it. I want to change things in my life. I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to wait to hit rock bottom. Why? Why do you have to? I know.
It
I
motivates.
went through that.
It's very motivating to
Right.
be at rock bottom, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I can understand that because I can say I hit my rock bottom to when I said, that's enough. I don't want any more. I was tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, I got to find something different because what I was doing wasn't working for me. So I said, I got to do some work. Obviously, what I was thinking, my thinking, no matter how much I thought I knew, wasn't good enough. I realized that. I was thinking that I was a pretty smart guy. I know what's happening. I thought I was, I could do. But when I realized it's not working for me, I had to go somewhere else and find something different. And now here I am, doing what I do now because it's changed my life.
Well, before we end that, give us one more time the power and the invisible. Tell us what that is and what we should take away from today.
Yeah, well, going back quickly to what I talked about was that, the physical world is always changing form. There's a physical, invisible power that's making it change its form. Like I said, the water cycle. Something's making it move. There's a power something that's breaking everything down and building something else up. There's an invisible power. The most important one, though, is your thought world. Your thoughts are invisible, and your thoughts create your experience. That is the invisible, and it is a hidden power that you have. You do have it, and it's just part of your nature. That's why this show, we talk about human nature. That is your nature. So that's...
Well, that's about all the time we have today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. You can go to truthonlyshow.com and check us out, see our previous videos, check out our Facebook page, and email us at truthonlyshow.com. And by the way, those songs were called Natural High and Move On Up by Curtis Mayfield.
All right. And I want to remind you about something that very important in my life, and I think it would help many of you. Anybody that has any type of heart problem, slow heartbeat, fast heartbeat, irregular heartbeat, anything to do or dizziness or whatever you're feeling, I highly recommend Dr. Trong Duong. He's amazing. He's an incredible person. You can contact him at 877-773-8664. 877-773-8664. And I want to remind you again that you're listening to the David Paul Band. I recommend you go to davidpaulmusic.com. Check out the calendar for a fantastic night of entertainment. And we want to thank you for being here with us today. And go tell somebody that you're close to you, that you would like to help them bring some changes in their lives. We highly recommend our show. Tell them about us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
NFL 17 is just about here. I'm Jeff Nathanson. Checking the scores from the NFL today. These are exhibition games only. One in progress. Second quarter, the